What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 6 of the Deviant Gentleman podcast. My name is Shane Vitko, alongside my co-host, Mr. Tommy Vext.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is your Uncle Tommy Vext.
Uncle almost deputized.
Almost deputized.
Tommy Vext.
Soon enough.
And we have a very special guest today. We have Master Sergeant Kayla Manthe of the United States Air Force.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
All right. You want to take a lap?
No, we're good.
Good.
You good? She's
Fuck
good.
Um,
like, I'm gonna fly helicopters. You're good. You guys don't scare me.
yeah, so that's next, huh? Pilot school?
Yeah, I start in September.
Now, let me ask you, is it because you're bored doing what you're doing, or you just want a new challenge? I feel like the military is always like, what's the next challenge, yeah?
For some people, yeah. For me, that's exactly what it is. I wanted to commission a while ago. Things just never really happened, but now I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
That ain't going to bite you, I promise.
No.
Oh, fuck, let me start this, too.
Well, let's talk about. Can we get into your? So let's talk about pre-military.
Yeah.
You had a prominent modeling career as a young lady.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
For TJ Maxx, right?
Kmart. No, Sears actually.
Sears and Roebuck.
I started modeling when I was 14, and then after that, I did pageants when I was 17 and 18.
But you didn't do pageants as a kid?
No.
Huh.
No, not at all. I was a super tomboy as a kid. I played with cars, and I rebuilt cars with my dad. Played a lot of sports, and I was always outside doing something.
What was your favorite sport?
Basketball.
Can you dunk?
I'm so tall, of course.
Okay, so modeling at 14.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
did you get picked up, or was this just like doing photo shoots at the...
I did fit modeling, so it was more like I was kind of a life-size mannequin. I was the average size of the typical customer that they were trying to fit, I guess, for clothes.
Can you say who it was or no?
Yeah, I did a lot of work for Mervyn's at the time.
No clue what that is. but cool.
Mervyn's.
Mervyn's.
What's Mervyn's?
I don't know. Never
Like an
heard of it.
outlet joint or a place for chicks or
Well-
women? Sorry, it's 2020.
It was kind of like Sears, JCPenney type stuff. I did a lot of stuff for Levi's, Old Navy, Banana Republic, because they're all kind of
BR.
together.
The
And
Republic of Bananas.
Bananas.
You ever go in there?
I have.
It's an
It's
interesting
not.
place.
It doesn't quite suit bigger gentlemen, so I'm
The
always
extra,
let down.
the extra larges are made for fat dads.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
very this way, not
yeah,
this way.
yeah.
So
It's like short fat dads.
Yeah, it's kind of like American Apparel, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You go in, you're like, oh, this is sick, and you try it on, and it's like,
Yeah, none of that.
What
you,
happened,
you know
dude?
you know what's a really cool store that nothing will fit me is All Saints. They have really cool ideas,
Dude,
and they have like the
so fun fact.
nothing fits.
Fun fact,
Nothing.
if you go back and look at the picture from New Year's Eve, that top that I have is a fucking All Saints. Awful choice.
Oh
It
really?
was an awful choice, dude. As soon as I
Yeah.
hugged you guys like this, it was a belly shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Crop
It's
tops.
yeah.
So it
Those
was
are
cool
the
if I don't
thing.
move. If I
Yeah.
just stood there, it was great, mannequin style. But as soon as I had to do anything that
Yeah.
involved movement, I had a little kid's fucking
no,
soccer
it's
shirt
a
on.
weird deal. It's I don't know.
It is.
But anyway, we don't have the
Um,
same body type as you, unfortunately for us.
Men's crop tops are coming back, though. And
Yeah.
Are they?
jorts.
I heard that.
Jorts.
Yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
have one when I was a kid, a Puma crop top. The thing was sweet. I loved it.
Was it?
Yeah.
That would explain
This
a
was-
lot.
This was about 85, mind you. But
Yeah,
dude,
okay.
I used to rock that thing fucking tough with little shorts and shit.
Yeah.
85
Bring it back.
with fucking pulled up tube socks with the stripes on them. Oh, yeah, dude.
You're like a Pizzagate's dream, bro. Jesus.
Good thing I was miles from Comet Ping Pong at the time.
I know, right? All right, so back to modeling. Back to modeling.
So you're from California.
I am, yeah.
All right, and that's where the modeling career took off, was in modeling. And you decided to get into that? Your parents, what happened?
I decided to. My mom was really supportive of it. My parents were really cool about it because it was, fit modeling. It wasn't putting me in any type of like compromising situation as a kid. And then
How was the pageants? Was it like
pageant,
was it like I imagine? So let me just.
I didn't even know they did that.
Me,
Past,
me
like,
either,
10.
but I
Yeah.
I imagine they're like tripping each other. I always think of like what's that movie, Striptease with The girl from
Elizabeth Berkley, or
yeah. When she's like, I just imagine like backstage catty girls just like breaking heels and slightly gluing them on and
They're so
doing evil
catty.
stuff. Yeah,
Like
tell us.
The first 2 pageants I did. So I did San Francisco City's teen. So you start locally and then you go into state and then nationals. So I did San Francisco Cities, and like that one, that was easy. You know, the girls were all super cool and stuff like that. And then I went to California teen. Again, the girls, they were actually pretty cool. I went to nationals, and that was the worst experience. So we were in Vegas, and like this girl, she would have like lipstick, and she was just like casually walking by, and she would like get lipstick on dresses. And like one girl, her room got flooded, so all of like the black stuff that comes down, you know, to like extinguish fires or whatever, it just like destroyed her dresses and stuff. And the moms, I think like it wasn't so much the girls, it was more like the moms. They were brutal.
So a pageant at that age is it dress, swimsuit, all that shit, a special talent, a fucking trick, a
We
joke?
didn't do talent at all.
So was it just, or did you just come out in a dress and here's what I got?
Yeah, for the most part. We did like a little opening number thing, a little dance, and then they asked us questions at the end, but
Like
it was
river
mostly
dance?
just like
I imagine all of you guys
River
in
dance?
full gowns doing like
Doing
Yeah.
a fucking
yeah,
Irish
like
jig.
I know, just to like
Wait, so
to
do they
like
only
Murphy's Law.
flogging Molly in the
Yeah,
background?
it's like what is going on?
Do they? Is there like a certain outfits you can choose from, or you just go like, "Fucking this
you can
dress
pick
looks
whatever
cool"?
you want.
Did anyone
So,
ever wear a wedding dress?
I did in my last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow, all
My
right.
first dress though, like I'm very frugal, so my first dress was like a $20 dress from JCPenney, and I was very proud of that because I was like, oh, you can still win
Right.
in a fucking $20 dress, you know?
Yeah.
It's
As
if
you
bring the
as you
fucking
like
So
start
you
to
won.
do better. Yes.
in a
Oh.
J.C. Penney dress. You heard
Absolutely.
it here.
How
about
many?
that?
How many of those? How many pageants have you placed in?
I did 3 and I won all 3.
Oh, just and then you were like, "Fuck this."
Yeah.
Basically,
I'm out,
Fuck
yeah.
this. Get me a rifle.
You got me a trifecta. You're like, I need a gun.
I got bored, you know, but it was cool for a while. But then like there was a lot of pressure to be skinny, and like maintain a certain, you know, presence.
And this was
board.
14 to what age?
I did my last pageant at 18, so I only did pageants at 17 and 18. Like
Okay.
Do you get dough for that too, or just a cool trophy to take home and a high five?
cool trophies, like cheap crowns, but they're sparkly. So it's
Do you still
cool.
have them?
Absolutely.
yeah.
Like,
I earned
I
those
prance
crowns.
around in my
Like, yeah.
sash when I'm feeling
Right.
shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like,
Get a
like
fucking
Carrie, like a
thing,
movie.
get a
Like,
thing, get a thing of Ben and Jerry's with the sash
Yeah.
on and the crown, just
Watching
walking
Sex in
around.
the City.
you
That's
just bring
my
them to
Saturday
deployment
night.
after you're done patching up soldiers. You got blood all over. You're like, it's fine. It's fine.
I'll be fine.
It's fine. It's fucking dark.
And
Oh,
how old were you when you enlisted?
I was 21.
And did you vet all the armed forces, or were you set on Air Force right away?
No, I wanted to be a Marine.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
Yeah, that was what I wanted to do. That was the first place I ever went to. But actually, when I was a kid, I was like 12. I told my dad, I was like, "Hey, I want to be a fighter pilot. What do I need to do?" And he's like, "Well, start getting ready now." You know. But my dad, he's very, you know, you could tell he was like, "Please don't do it. Please do something safe." You know. But my dad's awesome. He's been really supportive. But
Yeah, I went to the Marines too, and I was like, they were like, I was like, I have a GED and a few arrests on my record, and they were like, yeah, hard pass. The Army was like, come on over here, sir, we'll take you.
oh yeah.
And then the Marines called me when I was shipping off for boot camp, and they were like, actually, it turns out, and I was like, hey man, you're a day late and $1 short, sorry.
Yeah, I think like the Marines, they were like, "Oh yeah, you can be a cop," and I was like, "Nah, I don't know. Maybe I'll see some other
Oh,
stuff."
like an
and,
MP in the Marines.
Yeah, and so I checked out the Air Force, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll be ammo," because I thought that was really cool. Like, I don't
The
know,
fuck is ammo? Like supply?
ammunition, like working with all the rounds and stuff like
Oh,
that. I
okay.
thought that'd be pretty cool. And then I went into medical because it was the first thing that somebody was like, "Hey, you should really do this. We think you'd be really good." And then medical for me, it was like not. It was the last thing I wanted to do.
Who said that? Like someone in the Air Force was like, we think you'd be great. at
Yeah.
this." So did you go to basic with a plan, or did you go to basic and then just like you had to have signed up for medic?
I did, yeah. I signed up in the reserve. So in the reserve, you get to, you like have your duty station that you go to, and then you have your job.
Right.
So I wanted to be a load master, just like flying around and loading planes, because it like you see all the pictures of everybody doing cool stuff, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we went to Hawaii this last weekend. Oh, we did this or whatever, and then now I'm like, oh well, I work in a hospital now, so I don't go anywhere. But.
And you went to boot camp where?
At Lackland.
And that's
in
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Okay. And how long was your AIT? That's advanced individual training. So after boot camp,
There's a lot of people who don't know the terminologies.
Yeah, it's like all acronyms. That's all the military is acronyms. But I was in training at Shepherd Air Force Base out in I don't even remember where it was. It was in Texas, way north. But man, I think that was like 10 to 12 weeks or 16 weeks, something like that. And then from there, they send you to do clinicals in a rotation. So I was in Ohio, and I was stationed there for a little while doing rotations, working in their hospital. And then I got to my
So
duty
I
station.
wonder, I have questions. So this is interesting. You're obviously hot. Like on paper, like, listen, I'm not trying to be a misogynist pig. We're just talking about, but the military is predominantly filled with dudes.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult is it to be an attractive woman amongst all these dudes? And do you get more dick pics than regular Instagram models?
Oh,
You don't have to answer the
we
second part.
We could go into the DM. And,
yeah, tell them the number one request.
Feet pictures.
Feet pictures, yeah.
Feet. Dude, it's
That's
disgusting.
a weird thing.
I'm gonna take 3 right now. I'll have them online
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sale.
if you want, follow me on
Yeah.
Instagram for
They're
feet
gonna be on-
pictures of
We'll have 'em-
Kayla after
yeah.
this.
Top bid.
Yeah.
Top
Right?
bid gets the first picture. They're right here.
Oh, jeez.
That's such a strange thing.
It is, man. I mean, look I appreciate good feet. Like, I'm a little bit of
Yeah.
a bug. Like, if it's gross feet, I'm kind of good. But
Yeah.
I also don't give a I don't want to take pictures of them and like.
Well, I
just look
never
at 'em.
like
That's- I don't
consider
get
like I wonder what someone's feet looks like. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just would assume that you
Their
took
feet?
care of your feet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hopefully, there's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 toes.
toes,
Yeah,
you know?
instead of 5 feet. I'm like, what are you, fucking spiders over here? Jesus Christ. That's a weird thing. What else is so how many dudes that you get deployed with fall in love with you on deployment?
Oh Jesus. I don't. I guess I don't really pay any mind to it, to be completely honest. I try to keep things like very professional and very much in the mentality of you don't shit where you eat type thing. Because it's really hard, especially with like my Instagram and the followers, the wives of people, or even other females that I'm deployed with or work with. It's always really hard to maintain a good separation and balance with that.
Now, do you think? Because I think the same, and that makes sense because it's like I can tell you personally. So when I was in the military, there was no social media or anything, right? So, but if I was now, and here's a girl that's in my unit, and I know she's famous through Instagram, good-looking girl, all this stuff. Like, I'm thinking in the way of a sexist male, and I'm going, oh, this girl's definitely down, blah blah blah. I'm gonna shoot my shot, whatever it is. Do you think it's? How do you maintain? How does a woman, especially a master sergeant, how do you maintain that level of like? Do you make sure that it's respect at all levels?
It's really hard. A lot of people are still going to do what they're going to do. I have some people who no matter how many times I'm like, look, bro, like enough is enough. Stop. Like you've absolutely crossed the line. Some of them they'll still like send messages or like be really catty and petty about stuff. But it's like, dude, at the end of the day, like I feel good in the fact that like I'm still doing my job because I'm here for my job, not to make a relationship.
How inappropriate?
Well, here, I want
to
to hold on. This is a better question. What I want to ask is, I want to segue that into what. So we need a PSA here. So guys, we're gonna help you out. What is the appropriate way to ask a woman out who you work with and accept rejection if rejection is received? Please. What is the most preferable response?
I mean, I think most females these days, like all we're asking for is to be respected. And if a dude is coming to ask me out on a date, if he's respectful about it, like, hey, I don't know what your situation is. I like to keep my personal life personal, right? So, you know, if a dude comes up to me and is like, hey, you know, I think you're good looking or whatever, and hey, can I take you to dinner? Like, that gives me the opportunity to make an assessment and say yes or no to that.
Applebee's has a 2-for-1. Would you care to?
I love Applebee's.
That's it. That's
But-
what they say.
But you know, I think a lot of dudes they're so used to that, you know, not being told no. Especially dudes in certain communities within the military, they're so used to getting their own way.
How so? Because I mean, I think to me it's a. So I'm a civilian. So there are different levels, and we live in L.A. and we are in Hollywood. So there are definitely. I definitely understand the premise because there are people who are like, who basically, and I've heard this before that you know, women I know or have dated who have rejected celebrities. These dudes throw fucking tantrums, like they can't accept it, and it's like I always think it's hysterical to me. It comes back to like what my mother always taught me: the woman always chooses. So if someone doesn't choose you, it's all good.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
But like, there's dudes who, you know, I've turned them down multiple times, or have been like, yo, like, enough is enough. Please stop contacting me. Where it's to the point where
So
like,
brutal. How could you mistake that for anything else than what it is?
I had
But
to
they
do that. I had to
just
do that to
keep
Tommy in the
going.
beginning when we first met. And I was like,
I was
"Fine,
trying
I'll
to
be
get
a
on the podcast, but see, with me, it worked. You know what I mean? Sold a couple records.
Yeah.
He was
See?
like, man, this guy
Yeah.
might bring some people
Yeah.
to my
Okay.
platform.
Stay persistent, folks. Stay persistent, but not creepy."
I was pretty creepy.
Well, you know what? Well, that also goes to you. Is like, how do you think it's different as someone who you are and as well known as you are? Does a girl have to be respectful to you, or can she just say whatever the fuck she wants because you're a dude, because we look the way we look, whatever it is? You know what I mean?
Okay, so I definitely experience, and like I'm like you know, in the micro, in a microcosm of like, you know, I'm in the rock world, and it's a very niche thing, you know, and so in that world, yeah, I definitely have people send me inappropriate messages and inappropriate, like unsolicited nudes, and the weirdest thing is like for some reason people send me sex tapes of like couples or like, hey, look, and I'm like, I don't
Here's us
want to
fucking
see
on
you guys.
Monday.
Yeah, like I'm like, y'all need Jesus, like,
But do you think it's different? I mean, is it
well,
is
for
it
the most
different
part
for men
me,
than it is women?
Yes, because for the most part for me, I'm not like sleazy, and my persona isn't such. Like I'm very transparent about who I am and like my values and what matters to me. But I'm also like still a little bit of a fucking asshole. So you might be like, maybe, but like you can't really get a feel on it. But it's the same thing. You don't need to expose all of who you are. But as a man, I'm not really the best way that I can understand what women go through is because men and women are different. So, and the messages I get from gay dudes are so vulgar that I finally, and I'm like, I understand now. I'm like, oh my God, because they are nasty.
Relentless, dude.
But it's because guys are just gross. We're gross, you know? And so like, you know, am I worried that like Ramon is gonna kidnap me and like turn me into his bitch lava? Like, no.
Should be.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, but I'm like 260 pounds. Like, you're not gonna kidnap me. You know what I mean? Unless you work for the Clintons. And
Or you get a good chloroform. hookup.
yeah. Don't give anybody any ideas, okay? But yeah, so I get it. It's definitely hard to be a woman. That's why I'm curious. And it's also like taking a platform and speaking for women to teach and educate men how the fuck to behave.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
I
like
feel
that
like as a
simple.
society, we just don't know how to behave. It's just you just do and say whatever the fuck you want, and there's no repercussions. You know.
Well, that's the internet.
Yeah.
It's the
What
power of the internet.
about anyone that outranks you? Do you feel that they feel like they can cross a line sometimes, or are they pretty?
Absolutely. I've had like commanders come on to me before. I had like a former supervisor. He would like make vulgar gestures and like point to his junk and be like, oh, well, I'm a man, I can do this. Oh, I can say whatever I want to you and stuff like that. But then like the second that I try to fire back or defend myself, oh, Kayla, you're complaining. Oh, you better watch your tone, and stuff like that. And you're like, what the, like.
Have you ever had to report sexual harassment?
In my early career, I should have multiple times.
What prevented you?
Fear, big time. I think the culture now is like things are starting to come out and people are starting to report more. So like the statistics are coming out like, oh, these cases are coming up 70% more or higher. Yeah, because we're starting to actually like speak out against it because nothing was happening.
I know a lot of women that have PTSD from that stuff that still refuse to address it or talk about it or feel like nobody listens or nobody believes them,
Yeah, and it's really hard, especially when it's folks that you work with or like supervisors or people who have a position of rank who can kind of hold that above your head. And they can essentially,
make your life hell.
Absolutely prevent you from promoting or, going to schools and things like that, working on your career. But
What's that noise? Is that your phone? Your phone is just.
Oh yeah, it might have buzzed, but you don't have the headphones on today, guy. You're fucking breaking protocol.
I'm not breaking protocol. Do I need them? I can hear you just fine.
All right.
What? Huh? Can't hear you.
So before we get into Vanessa Guillen, did you expect to become Instagram famous?
God, no. Not at all.
How did it? So how did this happen?
Because I need some pointers.
I'm like the worst person to give any advice on it because I don't know.
Yeah, you want to be Instagram famous? Look like her. That's it.
All right, I just gotta.
I was crawling by I was crawling at like 5,000 followers for like 7 years. I'm like, oh yeah, I had to sell like 1 million records to get like 50,000 followers.
All right,
nobody wants to look at us, bro. It's like
sell records, crop tops, and weapons.
Crop tops, jorts, Puma crop tops.
Yeah.
Maybe
grow your hair out,
There you go.
No, that'll definitely. I will lose followers if I grow out the toilet seat, guy. It ain't happening. Fuck that.
I posted like one picture from my deployment in 2017, and that picture just got reposted kind of everywhere.
Kind of like within like the grunt style. Vets Lives Matter, all that, like those.
There were a bunch
forums?
of and they
Do
were
any of
like,
them sponsor you or any of that shit?
No, I'm not sponsored. I just.
Are you looking for a sponsor?
Oh, nice plug, nice plug.
Andy, call me. No,
I was about to say, guy, we ain't sponsoring. I don't know what the fuck we don't have. Jesus Christ, we ain't built like that.
Hey, we don't have as many followers as she does.
That's what I'm saying. We need the fucking Kayla Manthe to sponsor us. Okay, so. So again, I said when I was in the military, social media wasn't a thing. Is social media like a bit? Because I feel like my drill sergeants, my platoon sergeant shit, had they this right now, like they would not have. I see a lot of things that I see kids have them in boot camp or this. I mean, how popular is social media and how frowned upon is it in the armed forces?
Having your phone in boot camp, that wasn't a thing. We had a bank of payphones. When I got to go when I had gone to boot camp. So things are very different now. Social media it's really big, and I think that some people are using their social media platform for good, and other people maybe. They have different intentions with it, but to each their own. They could do whatever they want. For me, though, like I've gotten in trouble for social media a lot. In like 2012, I was on the Chive. I was the Chive Ed of the Week, and command like just nailed me. They wanted to kick me out. And there's an article that this female. So it was like the commander and like a bunch of other people from big Air Force. They had seen it, and they were like, oh, we don't want her in our Air Force. And I'll never forget it because it was, like, devastating. I'm like,
what was it, just a picture?
And they were just pictures. It was, like, me sitting there in my uniform, or, like, there was nothing vulgar or crude about it. And I was very careful to separate, like, my modeling photos from photos that could be, misconstrued or somebody, like, look at it in a negative way. But there was this female, she was like a colonel. She had said that I was too pretty to be in the military. And there was a military.com article on that. And I was like, oh my God, she ended up getting fired.
Busted lives matter.
Yeah. But like, that was like my first, you know, like
I feel like most
things.
female colonels too have that Joe Montana style haircut, and like, you know, they had
G.I. Jane.
They're
hate
aerodynamic.
men.
Yeah.
What?
hate gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
What was I gonna say? Okay, so Instagram and so what about like pictures you have? Like I see a lot of pictures on there with weapons and with the other girls and all that stuff, and they seem very out of uniform. You don't get in any trouble for that?
I have gotten in trouble. A lot of people complain in the DM.
I was gonna say
big time.
All
They're
the all the
you should be
military
ashamed
guys.
of yourself.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's not like people who are in right now. A lot of it's like
know.
retired
Yeah.
people or
So proud.
people who are like, oh, I almost went to boot camp. You know, you should be wearing that.
Yeah, that's like your band sucks. I'm like, what
Yeah.
band are you in? You're like,
Yeah.
I played
Right.
it.
That's like
banjo in high
the
school.
guy going,
fuck
I
you.
can recite Private Ryan. Why did you not have your BDUs on? It's like, dude, what?
I got a message from some guy the other day, and he was just like, I don't know, like, why you keep saying that you fly all the time because, you know, you wear this uniform and, oh, you must be you keep saying that you're a PJ. I'm like, bro, I never have said I'm a PJ, man. Like, I work with them. But a lot of people who, you know, aren't in or they don't understand it, they're like, oh, that's kind of weird, you know, and they ask a bunch of questions. But I get a lot of hate for my Instagram, but...
I think that's
You have no idea.
yeah.
I think, and you know, honestly, Tommy's one of the ones that likes because I'll read things that people either post about him or me or whatever, and like he goes like, "Dude, fuck him," you know, and like sometimes it's that simple to just remember that because like I'm not known, so when something like that happens, I want to take it so personal and go like, "Oh fuck, should I delete this? Should I take this down? I should have done that." And he's like, "Fuck him," you know, and it's like sometimes you just need to hear that from someone else where it's just like, you know, fuck him.
Oh yeah, I've had that like recently. I had some posts and it tore me up, and other people were posting these like really awful things about me and like very cruel things and people, you know, people started to be like, hey, watch your back, I'm gonna make you a skin suit, and like just, you know, death threats and
Why
stuff
is
like
that
that.
a thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I got some of those.
It's
I'm like,
the Botox, it's the skin. They just
oh, they want the skin. They want your skin. I was like, oh, wait a
No.
sec. Oh, that's a whole other vibe.
Yeah, no,
It puts the lotion
in
on
a
its
way, I
skin.
want to go. In a way, I want to go. Okay, let's see this, dude, because I feel like you have to be very articulate to make me a skin suit. You can't fuck up too many
Well,
times.
I just want to meet someone who threatens that because
Yeah.
the most part is like, first of all, like,
definitely got Velcro sneakers on.
well, dude, it's people who are like a lot people who've like given me death threats. I'm like, first of all, I've been murdered. Second of all, I've seen murders. I've witnessed murders and been murdered. I've seen crazy shit. People stabbed to death, run over with cars, fucking just crazy shit. Cause that's where I grew up. Just, you know, and I'm like, most of y'all on the internet are not prepared for what that looks like.
Well, I play
You know?
Call of Duty.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, it's like I'm an Instagram model. I'm like, yeah, I'm a soldier on Call of Duty. Like, it's like, dude, you're not. You watch a bunch of horror movies and you just like, just chill, bro, chill.
So I'm interested to know about
Dark.
this. So anyone for a PJ is the PJs is a para jumper unit or para rescue, which is like one of the, or if not the most elite unit in the Air Force, correct?
if we're being biased, yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Because I have a good friend who was
Biased.
para rescue. Now, not too long ago, there wasn't many women involved in that. So, I mean, that's a pretty big feat, the fact that you were a medic for and worked alongside, I mean, para rescue or PJs. I mean, that's fucking huge. That must have been, you must have felt pretty good about that, no?
I think I was like more scared because I came from like a more of a like forward staging environment.
More
and-
scared than like, what if I fuck up? Am I good enough?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I knew nothing about the PJs, and I didn't know who they were. But a girlfriend of mine was like, hey, this job just posted. You should totally apply for it. You would be perfect for this. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I applied for it, like not even thinking I was going to get it. And I was like, I screwed up the interview. Like I was terrible. And then they called back and they were like, hey, you got the job. Like, and then of course, all the panic sets in. You're like, fuck, what did I just do, But it's been awesome. There aren't very many females for sure. I mean, in our unit, I think we have like maybe 4 or 5.
And were those guys good with like helping you and teaching you? And
I think at first everybody kind of like opposes change, and so there's always going to be growing pains with that. And of course, like I come in and I'm trying to change things to make it work for me.
And did you come in under a new position, or did you replace someone that they had
I replaced someone.
Yeah, so that's tough too.
She replaced Jonesy, dude.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing.
I know, and you probably replaced a dude who was the size of 2 of us, who was like had like the surgical hands of like, I mean, like a
big guy, 260 with dainty hands.
Yeah, just like, all right, we're gonna be fine, boys. Made out of metal, just like.
But I had really big shoes that I had to fill because that person had been in that position for almost 10 years.
Oh wow!
And so me coming in there as somebody younger and new with not a whole lot of experience, trying to change things. It was really hard at first, but I love my guys. I have the utmost respect for them, and I'm super grateful to actually be able to work with them. It's pretty cool.
And so your deployments were with them?
Yes.
And where were you? You had what, 2, right?
2 deployments. Yep.
2.
You were just in Iraq, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Both Iraq. So, and you just got home?
I did, yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you
let
for
me
your
ask you a
service.
question. You went to Iraq, and we spoke. You went to Iraq in January,
Yes.
and then you came home 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like coming back to America post COVID-19?
It was different. The first deployment that I came home from, that one was also very different. But this,
What year was that, the first one?
17.
And both 6 months, 9 months?
4.
4 months, okay.
Yeah.
16 to 17, and then just those.
And then this last one. Yeah, coming home, like, this time was way different just because of the whole COVID thing and everything was closed down. And, like, being deployed, you don't really have freedoms as it is. And you eat shitty food and you're around people all the time. So it was nice to be able to have, like, a little social distancing so that way you could, like, gather yourself and try to be alone and get your schedule back to normal and stuff like that. But this one, it was different, and it wasn't different because this deployment was crazy busy and everything else, and the things that I saw, it wasn't that. It was more of a mental challenge to come back to like such a weird, non-normal environment.
Now, when you get home, is there anything like when I came home? It was like a guy sat down with you. Here's a piece of paper. You experience any of these things? You're good to go. You're cool. Bye. What's in place for coming home and like? Are you okay? What can we do for you? Do you need help? How did you experience trauma? But is there things in place now that's kind of like a buffer zone in between? I was just in a hostile war zone, and now I'm going to friendlies and fucking Woodland Hills.
Yeah, like we do these assessments basically right before you come home, and it's just a questionnaire asking like, hey, how are you feeling?
So it's still just that.
It's still the same thing. I'm very lucky at my unit, though. We have a licensed clinical therapist. So if we need anything, we can always call. And I think that our unit, especially in rescue, like they're starting to understand that preservation of people, whether that's on like the physical side or the mental side. And I think that's really important to be able to have people have that ability to come and just chat if they're going through something.
How about drug addiction? See a lot of people dealing with that right now? Medication, drugs. I mean, no one was allowed to be on meds when I was in the military, and I feel like it's a thing now.
I feel like that's all the VA does, too, is all they do is give out opiates, and they just try to mask problems.
Is it becoming an issue? I mean, are people experiencing withdrawals and stuff like that? I mean, have you seen personally people struggling with that kind of thing?
I haven't lately, but previously, so early on, I was able to work with the Army, and we saw that a lot. And we saw coping with pills and being addicted to it, or like always needing sleep meds or always needing muscle relaxers. And then it turned to, oh, we have all these people popping hot for UAs. And, you know, we would have meth, like legit meth, or a bunch of coke and pills and pot. And you just wonder, like, you know, okay, this is a problem. What's going on? You know, not
Now,
so.
with working in the hospitals and knowing what the suicide rate is so high, you know, do you what is your experience of dealing with, you know, suicides, overdoses? How has that, you know, affected you, or what's your kind of take on that as a problem?
The easy answer is the system is broken. They're failing their people. And that's my opinion, you know, and that's how I feel about it. Is, you know, you have people who legitimately need help. People go through shit on a daily basis, and everybody's had a different life. You had a different experience in your Army time. I mean, you've had much different experiences growing up, and same with me. But we all go through shit. We're human. And I don't think that the military, you know, takes all of that into consideration. They're just like, oh, you need to be on antidepressants. Oh, get out of here. Like, we're not going to take care of you because you're too screwed up.
Now, let me ask you this: what can civilians and family members do to educate themselves to be more aware of creating a support system for their loved ones who are active duty?
Education is always going to be the first thing for me. Is educating yourself on understanding what depression is, and depression doesn't look the same for every single person. Understanding stress and what people might, you know, what my stress is different than yours. You know, you see me binge eating and you're like, Kayla's stressed out, you know. But if you see me like not eating, you're like, oh, something else is going on, or, you know. You just have to be aware of those key things, and especially if it's your family and coworkers especially too. I mean, if you start to notice, you know, your coworkers withdrawing or something else is going on, you know, intervene and actually have a conversation. And some people, they just don't want to talk about it, but just being a presence and letting that person know.
Yeah,
I mean,
listening rather
why
than
do you
trying
think
to
that-
solve problems.
I feel like that's such a huge thing. I mean, I'm a part of a few veteran things out here, and one thing personally that's helped me is neurofeedback. And they have this program out here that's called, I think it's nationwide actually, and it's called Homecoming for Vets. And if you go to that website, UCLA is part of it, and they offer these people that will do it for free if you're a veteran. And you go, and I mean, it's literally done so much.
Yeah, I've done
wonders
it.
for me.
Yeah,
Tommy knows.
Shane suggested it to me, and it's
it's literally for anyone with PTSD, but mainly for why I feel it's beneficial is because it's the least amount of effort for the biggest result. Whereas talk therapy, I have to relive this, I have to do this. This thing is literally, you hook it up, re-regulates your brain waves, and people go, oh my God, I'm not getting shock therapy. You know, so it's like, dude, it's literally nothing. You feel nothing. You watch TV, and weeks go by, and you go, I don't want to murder people. I don't want to kill myself. Weird, you know? But so many guys that I talk to, especially veterans, when I offer this information, when I talk to them, it's like, why do you think it's so tough for military personnel to ask for help or to you know, get vulnerable enough to experience that?
I mean, I think to a degree, and I can't, you know, as a civilian who is the child of a Marine and a combat veteran, there definitely was a culture of the men in my family of it's not okay to be weak. And so it wasn't until, and that carried with me up until my recovery of not, you know, I remember going into recovery, and this guy said, you know, he was like, the most important words you can say is, I don't know and I need help. And the three worst words you could say in a row is, I got this, you know? And so I think that's a big, you know, that was my experience of kind of breaking that that lineage of men in my family that refuse to get help. Like, I mean, my dad is like 71 years old, and he won't even go to the hospital if he's sick. He's like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. You know, like, I'm like, all right, bro.
I mean, I think
like,
that goes back to that when we had that thing about what a man is in the World War II,
yeah,
Vietnam. I mean,
the walk it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And rub some dirt on it and walk it off.
And I think that, you know, especially as a civilian trying to get sober, never mind being a veteran, where you're taught that you're better than civilians, like that, like you are the elite human being. At least when I went through infantry school, and
Well,
then
the expectation is greater.
yeah, and now it's this thing of like, there's no such thing as weak. There's no such thing as you need help. You are the fucking help. You know. So now it's like I come home and go like, well, how do I ask for help if I'm the help? I'm very confused on how this works. Or now I'm gonna be weak, or I'm not gonna be this fucking soldier of fortune for the rest of my life and all this shit. And it's like,
And then there's also I definitely see for men there is something unattractive about the pendulum swinging the other way. These like the overly feministic, estrogen dominant males in America, which is like, you know, and all they do is seemingly talk and feeling, and all they do is seemingly, you know, it's like they're not really men of action. They're men of imagination, you know, and fantasy, and so, and that has a lot to do with like, you know, living in the simulation of like living your life on a computer and living your life in a video game,
right?
You know, so it's important to make the distinction that those are not synonymous. You know what I mean? And that, you know, just like maybe those guys could use a gym membership and a hamburger, you could also use some talk therapy and get your emotions out. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
Somewhere in the middle is where
Find
we
a happy
kind of,
medium.
you know, it's like
You know?
where we kind of, and that's why people need people. That's the thing. That's why this country
Human
is
connection.
great, because we need the ability for people to be on complete opposites of the spectrum, to respect and care about one another, to find middle ground, and so that we all heal. Anyway, that's just I'm gonna start singing "We Are the World."
Yeah.
No, I like my biggest thing with that is, you know, don't be afraid to ask for help. I've had to ask for help, and it was the hardest, most humbling thing that I've had to do. You know, because you sit there and you're like, okay, well, I have to be tough, especially, you know, because I work with all these dudes who are super tough, and you know, you don't want to be that weak link or whatever, you know, for the team, but if I'm not helping myself, I'm not setting an example for other people as well. And it's okay to get help. I've seen some of the most strongest, courageous dudes ever full on come in, bawling their eyes out, being like, "Hey, look, I need help." And that's like,
Do you
one
find
of the
do you
greatest
find that
things.
as an alpha female that it's easier for men to be that way with you at work?
I don't know necessarily because I'm alpha as well. I think it's just because I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand pain and I understand hurt and I understand that, you know, people go through different things that maybe they need help with, you know, and I think it's just part of like my compassionate nature that's more understanding as opposed to, oh, I'm alpha.
All right.
So, before we, you know, let's jump into this. The thing with Vanessa Guillen, and it's a very unfortunate and sad and horrible thing that happened, and I believe it was some guy that was pursuing her or whatnot and killed her and dumped her body by the river, and the girlfriend ex-girlfriend may or may not have had something to do with it.
Yeah,
I think she's
It's
been
a
arrested.
devastating story.
yeah, it's pretty gnarly, I believe. And again, like, I don't want to misspeak, but from what I understand, from what I've read, that was the guy was a superior officer. He was made advances on her. Something went sideways, and he bludgeoned her and put her in a work box, and then took her in his car and met up with his ex-girlfriend or lover or whatever.
Yeah, so this story, I mean, there's a lot
they-
of different
Yeah.
theories.
Where was this
about
that this
it.
took place? What base?
Fort Hood.
Fort Hood, and then they dismembered her and then poured cement over it. Yeah,
Put her in a shallow grave.
yeah. What? Well, it's not. I don't even know what to ask about that. But as a woman in the military, I mean, that has to be infuriating and horrifying simultaneously.
It brought up a lot of emotion, especially as a female who has been sexually harassed and sexually assaulted in the military. It brought up a lot of like, oh my gosh, I know how she feels. And her being 20 years old, you know, you're young,
fucking kid.
and yeah, and that, you know, it goes back to like, yeah, I didn't report anything. I didn't say anything because I was
Wait,
young.
so you had a sexual assault and you didn't report it?
I didn't. I was terrified.
What about now? Is it too late to report something like that, or do you still live in this place of fear because you're enlisted?
I don't think I'm ready, to be completely honest. But
So now, how do you cope with that? Because that's traumatic.
I have our counselor. I've spoken to like our guy at work. I've put myself through just kind of like self-help type books, and I've gone through different resources that the military has to offer to deal with it. And I found, you know, the gym and fitness and going to school, and I kind of
Never drugs and
yeah.
alcohol? Do you have your
No.
struggles with that?
No.
Very nice. Do you, must be nice to have parents that cared.
Well, I want to talk about. Well, I don't want to move on from this because I want to. I do want the perspective. What your perspective is on what is the solution to these scenarios? What is the solution to the sexual assault? What is the solution to the the Vanessa Guillen story, which is on which is obviously a very extreme case, and it's probably going to be something that draws the attentions that's necessary to bring about change. And why isn't this talked about more on the news than
COVID-19.
COVID-19 or it's like a 20-year-old military personnel is murdered and dismembered by another.
And this guy blew
Another
his head off or
officer.
something, right? Didn't kill himself?
Yeah,
He
and then
committed
it's
suicide.
kind of like, oh, it's not really a big deal, but then if the cops shoot a guy who steals their taser and fires it on them, we're like supposed to engage in another race war. So why is it that this isn't why isn't this more widespread information? Why, and what do we do? How do we respond to this? To how can civilians say we don't want this? We don't want this for our women in the military. What do we do?
There has to be a culture change, and the culture it's not going to change. And that's really heartbreaking to say. There are so many females. I did a calendar shoot with a bunch of veteran females last year, and every single one of them had been sexually harassed. Every single one of them, had problems with superiors and things like that. Or they went and said something like, "Hey, this dude's making me feel really uncomfortable. My, my superior came on to me or whatever," and nothing happened. And these are some incredibly strong females who actually came forward and said something. But sadly, it's just, I don't feel like there's going to be a change. We can report all we want, but going through for the Air Force, like green dot training or sapper or any type of sharp, like, cool, okay, let's check that box. Here's your, read this PowerPoint presentation and we'll call it a day. There needs to actually be accountability and change and action that comes with that, especially for the individuals who commit those offenses, instead of like, oh, hey, you sexually harassed this female. That's cool, man. We'll go ahead and promote you. And
Here's an Article 15, maybe.
Not even that. They'll brush it under the rug and they'll move the female, or the female is going to start being treated poorly, and granted, that's not with every case, but people need to be held accountable for what they're doing and shouldn't be rewarded. Like, oh, you harassed or assaulted this female. You know what? Let's give you your basic preference. You want to go to Italy? Go to Italy. Like, it shouldn't be that way. People need to be held accountable for it.
And I think how many times we've mentioned on this show accountability, right? And it's because and you're right. And I was curious to hear what you're going to say, because it's not going to change. Just like racism in America isn't going to change. I mean, can it slowly by little? Yeah, but it's going to be the same, And it's sad to think that a black guy that wants to play hockey has to just assume that he's going to hear the N-word once or twice because it's not a African-American dominated sport. Same thing with a woman that joins the military. just has to go, well, I know what I'm signing up for. I really
Wait,
love to be.
hockey players are racist?
Well-
So bummed, bro.
Well, I mean, they're trying to
Have
do.
you been to Canada?
They-
These are the
yeah.
nicest motherfuckers.
No, I
that-
know. There's actually a few of them. Evander Kane, there's a few that have started this
Yeah.
thing that's, and they're actually after that's. But here's the thing: is like these things happen and small changes happen.
Yeah.
So more of the hockey players. I have friends, my buddy Rich Clune and a few other guys that pushing for this. Make hockey. An altogether thing. Like you didn't realize that how dominated it was, and these guys have to hear a lot of shit, whether it's in the locker room, whether it's from fans, whatever. I mean, and these are some of the things that I would feel like an
interesting.
African American guy has to go through to make it to the NHL, and most of them get there and dominate fights. Score like these guys are good hockey players, and that's all that should matter. But sadly, where we live, and it's the same thing with the
Still
military is
Jackie
going.
Robinson whole
You know,
thing. Yeah.
am I a woman? And I'd love to be in the Air Force. I'd love to be in the Army. And I guess I just got to accept that at some point I'm going to be sexually harassed, and there's nothing I can do about it. That's fucking horrifying.
There was a Wisconsin Air National Guard colonel who was just relieved of her position for saying something very similar to that. Like, oh, I'm definitely going to misquote it, but it's something that people need to read. Having somebody as a female in that position saying a comment of, oh, you should know what you're getting yourself into. Absolutely not. Because what does that show?
Right.
Oh, I can get promoted and do whatever I want and still be this way to people and not, protect the people who are protecting the country.
How do you feel? So, how do you, as a woman in the military, with other women who are serving, who are the victims of sexual harassment and sexual assault? I always wonder, like, there's in Hollywood, there's a whole genre of there's a whole movement of women who have falsely used the Me Too movement to get a payday. And you've seen it with, I've experienced it. Johnny Depp went through this.
Yeah, being called a bitch doesn't qualify.
Yeah, and then
on a daily basis.
Well, yeah, I know, and then a lot of what these, and it's not necessarily always the women. It's like, what happens is there are law firms that specifically are invested, and they make hundreds of millions of dollars by suing male celebrities who just simply have a relationship or end a relationship with a woman who is not of the same earning capacity, and and so I'm just like, how, and then also even the purveyors of the Me Too movement, how they ignore, Joe Biden's sexual assault claims or his
Head rubbing.
Yeah, or his inappropriate touching of children, his groping and molesting of children in public.
Hey man, want to not rub my kid's head? Thanks.
And so, you have like all the witch hunters who are the purveyors of this movement, and a lot of good was done. We put a lot of bad people away, like Epstein, Weinstein. These guys fucking got, they got what was good for them, but also in the process, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of unpublished settlements that never went to court because men of wealth just had to fork over the dough to these like Instagram models and playmates and fake victims. So what do you think about that?
I think I'm gonna shoot my shot.
Yeah.
I'm not suing one of these guys.
You should. Listen, start your OnlyFans. They might drop in your DMs,
I'm
bro.
just gonna be like, Johnny Depp has been sexually fucking harassing me, and it's too much. I've had enough.
It's as believable as Kanye West for president.
Stop, dude.
I think there just needs to be a change with everything, and I don't have solutions. I don't have answers. I wish I did. There, with the Vanessa Guillen, there are some congresswomen who are coming forward who are like, you know what? We want to represent this family because the family was just fed lies and bullshit. And, they deserve to know the truth. They deserve that closure. And that was their daughter, and it's every female, it's our sister too,
But and I feel like, isn't the closure going to be, here's some money?
I would hope not. And for some people, they say, oh, the closure is, oh, he killed himself, so that should be closure enough. But that's not, because he may have.
If he killed himself.
Yeah.
Was he friends with Epstein or not?
Yeah.
The Clintons?
Yeah.
But,
well, before we get out of here, so what's going on with you guys with as far as the base and the COVID and the mask and all the shit? How social distance and bananas are you guys on base, or is it even you got back here before it was a thing over there, or even?
Oh no, it was really big over there too. So we were in a smaller area. And so, it was, the mask regulation came out, the social distancing, you had to be 6 feet apart. And then in the chow hall, they would only let a certain amount of people in.
And are they giving you N95, like real masks
No.
and shit, or it's just here's a fucking
Nope.
bandana?
Yeah, it was basically like here, they never gave us anything. We made a lot of stuff. Some of us had like,
As we love doing.
yeah,
Give me an idea to create. I'm in. I'm
and we had a lot of
cutting
people
some
come up
shit.
with really cool ideas too.
Yeah.
And like you'd see people making
Fucking poncho liner around my face. Let's get it.
yeah, whoobies, and we
What
saw
is a whoopee?
they're the best blankets ever.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yeah.
It's so good.
I'll get you one. They're really awesome.
All
But
right.
It's just this like
Got a fucking
it's this
whoopee.
material that's it is
It's like a
amazing.
nickname, whoopee.
yeah.
That's what I'm gonna call
Whoopee.
you from now on. My little white blanket over here. I'm gonna wear them on my head.
My little
hood.
hoodie.
But they took things very seriously over there, and I think the DoD kind of they've all taken things very seriously. We all saw the policies that came down, all the memorandums, but because COVID changed so rapidly, and they didn't really know what to do. A lot of our policies changed, weekly and daily, and things just were like, okay, we'll wear a mask. Like we're not going to do anything else until it changes 10 other times, But we weren't back in time to be around the people who had to like leave work and who had to telework or not even come in at all. So
But now, don't you work in a hospital setting?
no, I don't.
Oh, have you seen personally firsthand cases or anything, or people?
No,
catching it?
I've been in quarantine. So I got off quarantine like 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
So we're not supposed to be going
So
anywhere.
has all
doing
activity
anything.
kind of been shut down?
Where I'm at, yeah, for the most part. I mean, I still.
Now's the
went
time
out,
to
I
hit the
still went out
fucking
and got
armory.
groceries. So yeah, but yeah, like we were supposed to be, staying indoors and staying away from people in case we were going to be symptomatic or anything like that. But we went back to work on Friday, and it was, the masks and the social distancing, and they're, complying. The DoD's complying with whatever the CDC is.
In uniform
out.
or in whatever Kayla feels like wearing?
I wish it was whatever I felt like wearing, but no, uniform.
All
But
right.
the CDC and the World Health Organization keep changing what they say.
They do, yeah.
I know. on 4th of July, I've temporarily posted the. Did you see that? Oh, I'll read it to you. So this is the
thing with
California,
the yellow
the
stuff?
California
Yeah.
Civil Code, Section 51-7A, and basically the Civil Code states that no business is allowed to refuse service based on
mask.
no mask, that if you have a health condition. So I have asthma and emphysema, and so I had this whole situation where in the gym they were trying to make me wear a mask, and I'm like, I'm not wearing a mask. I have a doctor's note, I have a government signed paperwork, I have an albuterol pump, and I was like, I'm not going to do it. And I literally was instructed by my primary care physician that it would be damaging for me to wear a mask while working out for more than 5 minutes at a time. So I'm not wearing it. And they were like, sir, please. Yeah. And I was like, just go look it up. And they looked it up and they emailed me and they're like, you were right.
Oh, we're not
Gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take. It's also hard too when you're friends with like microbiologists and they like the masks are utterly worthless, and they're literally a symbol of servitude.
Fall in line.
You
Shut
like
up
that?
with your
Shut up
fucking
and wear your
mask on.
masks.
All right.
But people get mad. They're like, oh yeah, what if
Wow.
you? Somebody was like, what happens if you're telling people that they don't have to wear masks and a bunch of people die? And I'm like, live free or fucking die.
New Hampshire state motto, baby.
That's right. I'm getting it tattooed on my fucking forehead
So,
and my dick so you could fucking suck it.
Hey,
You're like,
there
look,
it
this
is.
guy's like, holy
All
shit.
right.
Uncle Tommy's back, kids.
So before we get out of
It's
here,
gonna be my character in
fucking-
WWE.
I hope that everyone's fireworks supply is fucking depleted because I've had enough of the goddamn
Yeah,
fireworks.
please. Hey, no more fireworks, guys. It's
Jesus
over,
Christ.
please.
I heard
bro.
a fucking Gatling gun go off. I thought I seen a guy run by with a fucking musket last night. All right. I want to thank you, Kayla, for coming in, and thank you for representing the women in armed forces, and thank you for your service, and thank you for what you do, and thank you for coming in.
very much.
You can find us on YouTube, Deviant Gentleman Podcast. You can find us on all listening platforms at Deviant Gentleman Podcast. We are on Instagram and Facebook at Deviant Gentleman. Tommy's personal page is at Tommy Vext. Mine is at Shane.Vitkovich. You can find us online, deviantgentleman.com. You got any plugs, young lady?
No.
You can
What's
find
your
you can
Instagram?
find her Instagram is the Kayla Manthe, Manthey. And I will have those feet pictures promptly. All right, thank you guys. You got anything?
No, that's
All
it.
right, thanks, guys.
See you later.